Good morning, everyone, and happy Friday. So the market is popping up again today. We see a lot of stocks ripping to the upside. We have the SPY breaking new highs as we speak. Just like yesterday, we have a lot of stocks popping up. Like I said, some of the top stocks I am watching today would be the China stocks, so like BABA, Queb, and things like that. They're trying to pop up before the market opens. And then two other stocks I'm really watching are Walgreens and then CVS. These are like value stock type plays, and they had an amazing reversal yesterday after that earnings call. So they're definitely on my radar, and I'm really looking for especially Walgreens to break above like that $52 resistance.
Yeah, that would actually be a really good move. And they had that awesome move off of earnings yesterday. And I really hope it can continue into today, Mike. It looks like that trend is kind of changing with the way that they moved up yesterday. And hopefully we can maybe come back up and retest $55 if we can break out above 52. But one other thing I'm keeping my eye on is definitely Goldman Sachs, Mike. They reported earnings this morning, and the earnings were actually pretty good. And we're seeing another nice green day out of these banks. I know that the banks did very well yesterday with Bank of America posting pretty good earnings. And it's just nice to see them doing pretty good again this morning. I know earlier in the week, JP Morgan actually fell pretty drastically on earnings, but with the way they're popping up this morning, they actually brought back all those gains back.
Yeah, I mean, Goldman crushed their earnings. I was reading into them a little bit, but these bank stocks did pretty well overall. Like most of the bank stocks popped up, Bank of America yesterday, Goldman today, and even like you mentioned, JP Morgan coming back. So it's good to see, I guess you could say, the financial sector popping off. And, speaking of financial stocks, how's UPST doing?
UPST is actually still on the run today, and they actually had a nice move up in pre-market. And I'm hoping that in market open, they can kind of continue their move up. And man, it just seems like they had that huge move yesterday, and it just seems like they're just not going to stop anytime soon. And, today's pre-market went pretty good. We're holding our ground pretty well. It looks like there is some red coming in here at market open, but, keep in mind, it could get volatile for the first few minutes. So it really could go anywhere at this point, but I would really like to see it maybe test $400 over the next couple of days. That would actually be a pretty good move. And man, Upstart's just been going up. It seems like every single day. So it's very interesting to see it continue.
Yep, so welcome everyone to the stream. Welcome Jamie, Vicky, Alex, Kiwi, George, Ant, Mason, and Spacely. So thank you guys so much for joining today. You guys know the drill. Let us know what stocks you are watching, and we can definitely take a look at them. But looking at my watch list today, Tom, NEO is leading the way up just under 3%. They have a lot of momentum, and it looks like they're trying to break out.
Yeah, that's actually a really nice move with Neo, and they've been consolidating down here for quite a few weeks, Mike, and it's just awesome to see him finally break out like this. And it looks like the momentum's definitely there today. And look at that. Look at the way they gapped up in pre-market. We haven't seen many stocks gap up like that today. Most of the banks just ran up on their own. So it's just very interesting to see NIO gapping up like that. And hopefully the rest of the Chinese sector can kind of turn around and maybe follow NIO back to the upside. I wonder how Tesla's doing. And wow, look at Tesla actually pop it open too.
There we go. So yeah, lots of good momentum out of the EV sector. Welcome Ravi to the stream. And, I feel like just like the clean energy stocks like Thomas pulled up, First Solar, I feel like, FSLR, Run, Enphase, Neo, stocks like that are at some pretty solid levels for, a dip buy. And, if you just hold those for a couple months or, even better, like a couple years, I think that should be awesome. And I even like the level Neo's at right now. So yeah, just keep it on your radar. Maybe dip by it if you like the setup. I feel like it's a really good industry for the next couple of years. But then we had to talk about Corsair. So George actually pulled it up in the chat. Corsair is down almost 8%. Yeah, basically 8% on the day. It sucks to see. And George said the company lowered its revenue outlook for 2021 to between 1.8 billion and 1.9 billion. And the prior guidance was 1.9 billion and 2.1 billion. But basically this problem is happening due to logistics and supply chain issues globally. So we know that, these, I guess you could say the supply chain problem has been affecting a good amount of companies, and Corsair is no different. So it sucks to see a sell-off like this. But at the end of the day, if you like the stock for the long term, you can always just buy the dip and just wait.
Yeah, I like it for the long term still, even though it's going down in the short term. And there is a pretty big support here around like $22. So maybe as we go down, $22 might be a pretty good bottom, but it's going to be pretty hard. So either way, whenever we're looking at Corsair right now, I think that it could still have a nice pop over the next year or so. It's just who knows how long it's going to consolidate like this for. And obviously, that outlook and guidance is definitely not good, or at least not good news right now. It sent the implied volatility up, though, which is nice. But either way, the stock is definitely breaking down pretty hard.
You know it. All right, so we have Bill saying AA is up 8%. So I saw that one. And then it looks like they had better than expected earnings, and then also they got a couple price targets, so that's good to see. The stock has been on like a nice slow and steady uptrend all year, so looking at AA up 8.5%, they have some good momentum, and they're really breaking out.
Yeah, I've actually never heard of this company, but look at the way they had earnings last time, or the way the earnings went for them. That's actually a pretty good move off of earnings. And like you said, they just had an awesome yearly chart. So like you said, it's just it's on the uptrend, and it definitely just broke out. So I think it could definitely have a nice multi-day runner here, but just be a little careful. It looks a little overbought to me over the past year or so, but I feel like it still has potential with the way the momentum looks.
All right, and then Tom, let's take a look at RCL really quickly. So these cruise lines, I've been eyeing them. I've been eyeing them up for a while now. I know that like they struggled a lot over like the past, I don't know, maybe 5 to 7 trading days, but I feel like that they're at like still a good level, and I feel like they have a lot of room back to the upside. And I'm really tempted to like add more to the position. I know we've been holding calls on this one for a while now, but honestly, what do you think about the setup? Because I still like it.
Yeah, I do too. And they, like you said, they had this pullback over the past couple weeks, which isn't too bad, honestly. I think that's just a little bit of consolidation coming in. And obviously, they hit that resistance around $95 again and just failed to break out there. But, the move down wasn't terrible. They moved from 95, now they're at $88. So, that is only like a 7 point move. It's not like they fell off the face of the earth or anything. And I feel like there's a pretty big support down here around $80 still. So honestly, I think we're still pretty far above the major supports. And I feel like that with the way it's turning back to the upside right now, it kind of looks like it's trying to get that nice pop back up. And, I think that we're seeing that with a lot of other stocks too, like AAL even. A lot of the airlines are looking like this. I know CCL is trying to pop back up, kind of like RCL is too. And overall, I feel like it could definitely get that move back up. And that whenever it came down like this, it doesn't really look like how it came down in June, in the middle of June. You can see this was more of just like a straight down move. But right now, we've had a lot of like up and down, very slow movement to the downside. And it just looks like it's really going to try maybe for a turnaround here.
Alrighty, so we have these China stocks trying to pop up, Tom. Like if you look at BABA intraday, it is holding its ground, and I would actually say it's doing more than holding its ground. It's popping up.
Yeah, it is. It's actually bounced off this 165 area a lot this week. And, we had that really nice move up on Monday morning, that big gap. And then all week, we've just been trading right between that type of gap to the upside. So we've been between 162.50 and 170 pretty much all week. And it looks like we're heading back up towards that 170 area right now. And it's awesome to see BABA running like this, because over the past couple of days, those China stocks started to really consolidate. And I think if they would have fallen off and broken that support today, it would have been pretty worrisome for these Chinese stocks. But with the way they held and they're going back up, it honestly shows that there's a lot of strength here still. And I think it gives me a lot more confidence right now, at least for the short term.
Alrighty, so we cannot forget about SPCE. This stock is down 12% on the day, and George said, with news for it, space exploration company Virgin Galactic said on Thursday it is delaying its commercial space travel service to the fourth quarter of 2022. So I know we talked about this news a little bit in yesterday's video, but yeah, they're delaying their launch, I heard too. So it's not good news. They're down 12% on the day. If you're a fan of the company, I feel like now's a good time to dip by it. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of the company, so I'm not gonna. But even if you wanted to sell some puts, I don't think it would be horrible. And they even have earnings pretty soon.
Yeah, and just keep in mind, like Mike said, it's not the best company in the world. It is an awesome space company, but the main thing is that it's a space tourism company, and lots of people are waiting for better space companies to come out, kind of like how Elon Musk keeps talking about Starlink, which is that worldwide internet system through satellites and stuff. That's going to be awesome in the future. And then obviously, there's going to be a lot more space companies coming out. We're already seeing some of them come onto the market, like RKLB, ASTR, a couple of stocks like that that are already out. And, we're seeing SPCE kind of really fall off here. And, just keep in mind, guys, like they're a space tourism company and they haven't really gotten fully established yet. Once they get fully established and they start going on flights every like couple weeks and stuff, that'll be a lot better for them. But for right now, they're still in those development stages. Like Mike said, if you like it for the long term, it could definitely be a good pickup for shares right now. But overall, like I would just stay away right now. If you see it go back on the uptrend and we see it bounce off of a key support, it might be a good time to buy then and just swing it for a couple of weeks. But I just don't like holding it for the long term right now. But maybe if something changes, maybe then they could be a little bit better.
There we go. So awesome stuff there. We have Navi saying, how are you guys feeling about Plug Power? So looking at PLUG, they had an awesome uptrend over the past, I guess I'd say a couple of weeks or so. Now, it's not my favorite play in the world, but it's definitely not bad. I would definitely consider selling some puts on it. It's just implied volatility isn't the best right now. So it's like a potential play for me. I just want implied volatility a little bit higher. But they do have a pretty big resistance at 35. And, as we can see over the past couple weeks and even over the past year, like they have like a lot of potential for growth, but they are a pretty volatile stock, which can be a good thing and a bad thing.
Yeah, definitely. They go up and down quite a bit. And it looks like right now they might be back on that downtrend until they break back above $35. So we'll have to see what happens. But it looks like they might come down for a couple of days. And who knows, Mike, if they start to get some more red candles and if they get close to $25 again, I'll look at maybe selling some more puts and maybe grabbing shares for the longer term. But it looks like they might have a couple days of pullback and definitely be careful of that 35 resistance. Like Mike said, I feel like if we break that, we could have a pretty good move to the upside, but it might take a couple weeks.
And then we have Max saying, proud owner of plug put lottos. Well, hopefully it pays off for you. I guess it could be a win-win. But then we have Ravi saying TME. So looking at TME, this stock has been struggling a lot over the past year or so. And like even with like the China stocks popping off, like I was just expecting like TME to have a little bit more like upwards movement, I guess you can say. But honestly, it's just, to me, the setup looks bad.
Yeah, it looks pretty bad. I mean, it looks like it might be trying to make like a good bottom support level here, but we can see it tried to make a support at $10. That one got broken too. So it could definitely happen again, but just be really careful with it. I think that there's just a lot safer options out there than this one. TME, obviously, it's been getting beaten down a lot. So there is a lot of potential for it to possibly get a nice pop back up. But either way, I feel like lots of other stocks are a lot safer right now, especially like the solar stocks, like FSLR and maybe the clean energy ones like Run and Enphase.
And then, Tom, let's check out NEO one more time. Like, this one's popping off, and I feel like it's at a pretty solid level for the long term and, like, even for a short term play. Like, you can see, like, it's doing pretty good. And, like, like, if you're someone who wants exposure to, like, the EV sector, I feel like, when you have NEO at this price level, as long as you're fine with holding a China stock, I feel like it looks pretty decent.
Yeah, I think it looks pretty good too. And I actually love the setup here on the daily chart, the way it's been really consolidating here with these it's just been really staying between a range lately between like $35 and a high of like 37. So I'm really glad to see it breaking out right now. And I'm with you. I think it could have a nice move up in the short term and maybe for the next couple months. It looks like that it's been definitely dipping, and hopefully we get that nice swing back up and the buyers come back in. And if the China stocks keep going up, then that'll only help NIO and just help their case. So hopefully that happens. And I think NIO could come up and possibly retest $40 over the next few days.
There we go. And then we have Ravi saying, I'm holding shares at $12 for TME. Should I book loss or hold? So only you can make that decision. Always trust your own gut. If I were you, I would close it just because I would never be in the play to begin with. I think the chart looks horrible, but any news out of China can dramatically change the direction that the stock goes in. So, it's just, to me, it's a complete gamble, and I don't like these type of plays, so I would never be in it. So always trust your own gut no matter what. But then we have Sean saying C is going straight up. All right, we got to take a look at these bank stocks. Like, I know that they've been exploding over like the past day or two, and looking at Citigroup, Tom, like I feel like C looks like it's in a pretty good setup.
Yeah, it is. It's actually coming up pretty well. There's lots of momentum, and the banks are all doing pretty well today. And Citigroup's really leading the way. And it's just that it has a really explosive, as we can see, ever since market opened, just pretty much straight up movement. It broke out of this range that it was in yesterday. There was actually a pretty nice upper resistance right around 71.60. And we actually broke that right at market open, had an awesome move to the upside. I believe this was actually my free day trade today in the Discord, Mike. It was actually, and we broke that 71.60 area and just had that very nice run up. So pretty nice move there out of that range.
Awesome to see. So looking at some of the scanners so far, we definitely have AA continuing to pop off. Some other stocks running are like Riot and Mara. Let's take a look at those two really quickly. So Riot's up 7%. Mara is up basically 7%. Tom, I don't know if you were like paying, I don't know if you saw this news or not, but we're getting pretty close to a Bitcoin ETF.
Yeah, we really are actually. I've been seeing lots of news about that over the past few months, and looking at it right now, I think that there's a pretty good chance that that's going to happen eventually. I mean, we all know that it probably will. It'll drive a lot more buyers into Bitcoin, and I think that'll really shake up the Bitcoin landscape. But one thing is I've heard also a lot of things about possible regulation with Bitcoin. So with the Bitcoin ETF might come regulation. So we'll have to see what ends up happening. But I really feel like that's going to be a big player for Bitcoin. And as we can see, looking at slash BTC, it's actually been popping off pretty decently lately. And we're actually back above that $60,000 mark.
Yeah, so there's actually news on CNBC because I was reading this, I think yesterday or this morning, where we're getting like very close to a Bitcoin ETF, as in like Tuesday next week. So one problem with that though is the SEC can deny that, or they can stop the launch of the ETF up to like midnight on Monday, I believe. So they're saying that there's like a 75% chance that the Bitcoin ETF will go through, which is good. But the problem is that the Bitcoin ETF, it's going to hold the futures for Bitcoin. And with that comes like the cost of rolling. So basically every month or every couple months, the ETF managers will have to, close out of their current Bitcoin futures contracts and then buy, the next month or the next year's. And basically there's costs that come with that. So the Bitcoin ETF probably would not follow the spot price of Bitcoin exactly. So, the good news is that we're getting closer to like a normal Bitcoin ETF, but the bad news is that like it still wouldn't perfectly follow Bitcoin because of the costs associated with rolling those futures.
Yeah, definitely. And hopefully the chart ends up coming out pretty close. As long as it's pretty close, I think it'll end up being pretty good. As long as like, for example, like if Bitcoin goes up 3.7% today, as long as the ETF is somewhere close, I would like it. But you're right. If it's too off, then it wouldn't be the best in the world. But either way, I think with it being the first one, people are definitely going to flock into it, and it'll definitely rock the landscape either way. But hopefully that ends up going through, because that's a pretty big, I think that's a pretty big deal, Mike. That's going to drive a lot of people in. And can you imagine like the volume on that Bitcoin ETF on day one? Like, man, I remember whenever Coinbase dropped, everyone thought that was amazing. And we had a ton of volume on that day with Coinbase even. But can you imagine a Bitcoin ETF? That one could really go crazy the first day.
Yeah, but like, when you like look at like some of like the big crypto news we've had like over like the past year or so, like I know this is like a totally different animal, but like when Dogecoin and like Elon went on SNL, like there was a huge sell-off after SNL, and it seems like that was the peak. And then even with the company that just started using Bitcoin, was it like Nicaragua or like Honduras or something? That also is a pretty big sell-off for Bitcoin. And then I just feel like a lot of times the news and like the hype is already priced in. Like we can see Bitcoin has been exploding to the upside over the past couple weeks or so, and that's awesome. And honestly, I feel like it's going to be already priced in, because out of like all of the notable events, especially in the cryptocurrency space, I feel like a lot of the ones that are super hyped up, like it ends up being like a buy the rumor, sell the news type event, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I think it does too. But one big thing is that ETF will just drive a lot of buyers in. But one thing that I brought up earlier, it's going to bring regulation, like whether people like it or not. Bitcoin's going to get regulated at some point. So like, I think that that's just going to be, the nature of the beast here, especially like with the U.S. government, the Fed, and everything like that. And that might be the main reason why they end up falling on this news. Like who knows? The ETF might come out, it might get rejected by the SEC, maybe just due to the fact that there isn't regulation. Like we have no idea. So anything could honestly happen. But I'm with you. It's had a nice move up. And I'm not saying that the ETF is necessarily priced in, but I would say that just in general, they've had lots of moves up lately off these supports and stuff like that. And I like how you brought up that Honduras news, because that was a pretty big deal too, because they're pretty much trying to make Bitcoin their national currency. And there's a lot of hiccups that are involved with that. So hopefully they can get all that stuff worked out so that whenever bigger countries implement it can be implemented in a better way. But, Bitcoin's a really like touchy subject, and there's definitely a lot of uncertainty with it. So like Mike said, we're getting up to these like main resistance levels here, right around 60 to 62,000. And I would not be surprised if we bounced here and maybe had another push back to the downside. So, I'm with you, especially like with getting up to these highs with the news coming out. I would not be surprised if we ended up having a sell-off soon. And, we've pretty much went straight up off this $30,000 support.
You know it. And then we have George coming in saying AMC is holding $40. So, yeah, AMC has been fighting pretty hard over the past couple days. It had an amazing open today. Resistance right at 41. But looking at it, like it has some good momentum. But Tom, you already know what I'm gonna say. It just needs that hype back. Like I think I was actually on Wall Street Bets the other day, and someone was like basically saying the same thing we've been saying, Tom. Like how they're pumping like a new stock every day, and not every single play is a short squeeze. So. Either way, AMC chart looks good, but in my opinion, it needs some more like momentum or hype with it.
Yeah, definitely. And, kind of bringing up that type of, I should say that news, like with how just people aren't buying into the same stocks on Wall Street Bets anymore. Like one thing that I've thought of is like, I know this might be a bit of a conspiracy theory or something, but it would honestly be in like these hedge funds and stuff favor if they just created bots and maybe went on Wall Street Bets and tried to pump some stocks just to try to get people into other things. And, I'm not saying that that's what's been happening, but you would definitely think that that would be something that those hedge funds would think about doing or trying. And it's definitely just the way things have been going, and the way that it seems like there's a new pump and dump like every other day. It just seems like that something fishy's been going on.
Yeah, I mean, I could see it for sure. I mean, there's no shortage of, I guess you could say, like, manipulation in the market. So I really wouldn't doubt it. But looking at everything, we are seeing a lot of, like, buying pressure today. AMC's doing good. ANY's doing pretty good. Tesla's doing pretty good. Tesla is at 828, which is awesome to see. Upstart is still going, Tom. Still, UPST, they're up 3.5% today, and it looks like we're going to test that 400 resistance.
Man, it looks like we actually might. And I would hate to try to say 400 might be the top with this one, because with the way this moves, I mean, it's impossible to call the top, but maybe there'll be some resistance around 400. Maybe there won't. We'll just have to see what happens. But if we get a big drop off of 400, I would definitely entertain maybe playing puts for a very quick in and out day trade. But just make sure you see the bounce, because who knows, it might break 400 and go up to 410 by the time market closes.
For sure. So, we have a lot of plays really moving, most to the upside. And when we just look at the SPY in general, it's up like 0.5% today. And, I'll say yesterday, like the SPY was on a rocket ship. Like it basically just went straight up all day. And as of right now, it looks like we're just like holding these levels. But yeah, I mean, it's good to see after the very indecisive past couple of weeks. I know that a lot of people like don't like when the market doesn't do anything, and I'm one of them. Like I hate when the market like doesn't go up, doesn't go down. So I'm just glad to see some like nice momentum, and in this case, it happens to be the upside.
Yeah, and I'm just glad to see it pick a direction like what you said. And I love the way it came up yesterday and held this 444 support. at market open today, like we can see that some red came into the market at open and we bounced right off of 444, and we're actually holding that level pretty well. And a lot of people were thinking that 444 was going to be a pretty hard resistance to get through as we kind of got back up here. And with the way that we're holding and kind of pushing through it, I actually really like this movement. And I feel like that, I'm not saying that we're going to rip back up like all day long like we did yesterday, but if we break above 445, I could see a pretty good intraday move today, maybe at least up to like 446. But either way, it looks like a pretty nice day so far. We have lots of stocks in the green, like we were talking about earlier. Banks are killing it, which are a huge part of the market, and it's just really pushing up the whole the overall market. I wonder if the QQQ looks as good, and it's not turning up quite as well, but it's definitely holding its ground like the SPY is.
Here we go. And then George said Mara is very strong today. So absolutely, Mara is looking great today. It's really popping off, and Bitcoin's exploding. So it's up almost 8% on the day. I mean, talk about like I don't even know what to call this, Tom. Like, this is like a quick recovery. I know we're not all the way back to all-time highs yet, but it went from like $20 or so up to 47 in a couple weeks, a couple months. That's crazy.
Yeah, it really did. And you know what? Actually, just one thought that just came into my head, Mike. And we're looking at like the chart for Bitcoin and Mara and Riot right now. And they're getting really close to these all-time highs again. And one chart that actually looks pretty similar to these cryptocurrencies is actually Tesla. Tesla is actually getting really close to their all-time high again too. And it's actually kind of strange that Tesla was popping off whenever Bitcoin was popping off. And now they're both kind of getting back up there, and they're both just kind of breaking out. Tesla broke out above $800. We've got Mara and Riot breaking out. We have Bitcoin trying to break out above 60K. And it's just a very interesting time in the market. And I just wanted to point that out, that Tesla's kind of going up with these cryptos. And I don't know if that's because Tesla's been investing so much in the cryptos, or if it's just this circumstance. But either way, it's very interesting. And I'm glad to see the whole sector kind of popping off. But like we talked about, as these stocks like cryptos and even Tesla, even as they start to get back up to these all-time highs, there's definitely going to be a lot of resistance there. So I'd be a little careful with them in over the next couple of weeks, but hopefully the momentum continues for at least a little while.
All right, so we have Ravi and Vicky asking about Fastly. So let's take a look. FSLY, this one's up 2.2% on the day, which is awesome to see. Lots of buyers are flocking into this one. I think it looks great. It looks awesome in my opinion. And then Tom, they are asking for some levels.
Yep, and for the upper resistance, we actually have one right around $45. I had one around 44.80 on my daily chart here, but you could say right around 45, which was the high of yesterday. So make it break out above 45, and I feel like we could have a pretty nice run. I love the way it's recovering back up today. That's a pretty good sign so far, and hopefully we can break back out above 45. That would be an awesome move. As far as support to the downside, I'm seeing a pretty big support down here right around $42. There is another one around, I would say like 43.05 to 43, but I feel like that 42 is going to be the bigger one over the next couple of weeks. But the main level to look for right now is going to be, I think, $45, and then just $44 is that lower support today.
Alrighty, so good to know. I think the trend looks awesome, and it's good. It's always good to see an opening like this. It's basically going straight up. So love to see that. Like, even looking at their daily chart, I feel like they have a lot of room back to the upside. So definitely keep that one on your radar. Looking at some other stocks so far, even like Qualcomm had a pretty nice recovery back up. I know they've been selling off pretty hard, so that's good to see that pop back up. Nvidia is still holding its ground. Definitely not going down without a fight.
How's MU looking?
What'd you say?
I said, how's MU looking?
Not bad. It's still a pretty good recovery. Like 0.5% on the day, but it's still a nice bounce up. Especially given all the current market's volatility over the past couple days.
Yeah, I'm looking for like a long-term entry on these guys, but they just keep going down. And I'd like to see a nice recovery here, like what you talked about. And it just seems like they're just not recovering up like some of these other stocks are. But hopefully they can get a nice pop over the next couple of days. But I'm really trying to eye up a nice long-term entry, and it's not looking bad right now, but I'd like to get in a little bit lower than 70 or a little bit lower than 68, which I feel like is just too close to $70.
Alrighty, so UPST still going like we said. Even AFRM still going, Tom. Like this one's been on like a pretty awesome uptrend as well.
Yeah, look at them actually recover up today. They had a pretty bad move down at market open, and that move up today is actually pretty good. That recovery's nice. And yeah, they're actually really running up too. And I know we've talked about this one kind of being like an upstart over the past couple weeks, but man, it's really starting to break that all-time high. I was thinking maybe it would double top there as opposed to that red candle there, but it ended up coming right back up and ended up breaking that a couple days later. So awesome moves. And I really think it can continue. You know, we just broke that previous all-time high around like 146.70. And I feel like that we should get a pretty decent run out of that. And I'm not saying we're going to run up to 160 or anything, but I could see a pretty nice retest maybe of like 153 or 154.
Good stuff. So I don't know about you, but like I really, really like the setup on CVS. I think the recovery it had yesterday was awesome, and I really think it has potential like over like the next couple weeks or so. And ideally, I'd love to see it retest that resistance. Let me pull it up on the chart really quickly. Right around like $90 to like 91.
Yeah, they've actually been killing it. Look at their long-term daily chart. Like they had a really bad few years there, and now they're actually recovering up very nicely this for the past year. COVID actually helped them a little bit. You know, they got a nice pop up with that, and that's a good sign. And it looks like they are coming right back. And they do have earnings coming up, which is going to be pretty interesting. But I hope the earnings end up helping them. And I'm with you, Mike. It looks like it's on a nice uptrend right now, and I love the way it broke out above 85.50. I think that's a pretty nice break.
There we go. And then George said Verizon and T continue their recovery from that huge dip. So, yeah, they've been struggling a lot lately. Honestly, I have not been following them too much, but it is good to see like a pop back up.
Yeah, I know T slashed their dividends a while ago, which, hurt them in the short term, and lots of sellers have been coming in. I don't know what's been happening to Verizon, maybe just the whole sector overall not moving the best, but I'm really glad to see it kind of holding its ground and coming back as well. I think that's a good sign. And, I do like these stocks for the longer term, especially like with the way like 5G and everything like that's getting rolled out and stuff. I feel like for the longer term, they'll end up being pretty good, but in the short term, just lots of selling pressure. So it'll be hard to say, but keep in mind, Verizon does have earnings coming up on October 20th. So they are coming up in about 5 days. So definitely be aware of that.
Okay, and then Alex said SPY above 445. Yeah, SPY is doing pretty well. It's really ripping to the upside. Basically, every stock on my watch list is green except for like Corsair and DraftKings and Zoom. But besides that, lots of green today. Love to see it. Some of these stocks are really ripping. But yeah, I mean, I think it looks pretty good overall. I like the recovery we're seeing on a lot of these stocks. Like Tom, like what are some like the top plays you're seeing?
Yeah, my favorite stocks that are moving today is actually one of them's Caterpillar. I know they had an awesome setup yesterday, and I was really eyeing up Cat yesterday for a nice move back up to around $200. And, it looks like they are having a pretty nice recovery today, getting back up to around 198. And Caterpillar has been actually getting beaten down for the past few months. But, with the way that they're bouncing here at the bottom and they're recovering up, maybe they'll be a pretty good dip buy. And I know that they've been a pretty big stock the past couple of years, and they've definitely gained a lot of popularity and traction in the market, but definitely looking at them. And then I'm also eyeing up a couple of these bank stocks still. I know that Citigroup reported those earnings this morning, and they are just on fire. And looking at them on the daily chart, I'd love to see them come up and retest $75 over the next couple of days. And it looks like they're just having a nice explosive move, and they're actually breaking that high of earlier in the day, right around like 72.90. Looks like we're getting a nice break. Maybe we'll break 73 here. And yeah, we actually just broke it.
Love to see it. Awesome. So let's talk about Tesla a little bit more. I know that, like kind of like you mentioned, they've been recovering really well, and they have earnings pretty soon. But it's great to see this recovery back up. They've had a wild year so far. Like, of course, 2020 was insane for them. Like, they were one of like the most explosive stocks that people have seen in a while. So honestly, I mean, they've been even holding their ground pretty well. Like, I know they were just exploding like in December of 2020, which is great to see. But it's nice to see that it held that support right around 550, and we're slowly like trending up to maybe retest that high of 900.
Yeah, it looks like we're going to really try to at least over the next few days. And I would really hope that we do. I know Tesla, one thing about it, Mike, I don't know if you've noticed this as well, but I feel like that they've lost a lot of hype in the market. You know, like I feel like that they're just not quite as hyped up as they were. We can see the volume is just not quite like it used to be with Tesla. And I don't know if that's going to hurt them or help them, but we can see they've definitely been going up a lot slower than they're used to in the past, which so it probably hasn't been getting the same hype. But either way, it's moving up very nicely. And I'm glad to see it kind of coming back up like this. But like I said, though, I feel like that they're just not as popular as they were. Maybe it comes down to just the media isn't reporting on them as much. You know, like we're honestly, I'm not seeing a lot of Tesla articles lately and stuff like that. So I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I feel like that they're just not as popular anymore, Mike. What about you? I can definitely see the volume is not as much, but I'm just not seeing the same hype on like Wall Street Bets, CNBC and stuff like that. But that doesn't mean they're not going to go up. It's just I'm just not seeing that same hype that we were.
Yeah, I'll agree with you for sure. Like you mentioned, the volume looks to have dropped a good amount, over the past year or so. Honestly, I didn't even realize that until you pointed it out. Now, I know that the stock price, like generally, like the higher it goes, normally you'll probably see less volume, but it could be the same dollar amount. But it has stayed pretty stagnant, and the volume is kind of steadily decreased. So, yeah, like you said, like it just doesn't have the hype that it did last year, and it's kind of rightfully so because last year, went from like 10x almost or something like that. So it's crazy. It had crazy movement. Where this year, like it's just not really doing anything, and I feel like it's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like when you see the stock exploding up, it gets all the media attention, which makes even more people jump into it, right? And then even more people jump into it, and then it goes up even more, and then it gets more media attention, and then more people jump into it. But then when the media stops pumping it, then it's, like it kind of stays stagnant. And I guess you could even like argue the same thing with some of the hype plays. Like, like when they are getting all of the attention, they just rise, faster and faster. But then when that attention dies off, like they just, it's just totally different. So definitely a good observation there, Tom. It looks like we're having a pretty good day. Like we covered most of the top movers so far. Like I don't know if you have like any like notable plays you've been watching or like anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely been eyeing up a couple stocks like MasterCard and Visa over the past couple weeks. I know that they've been, well, Visa actually looks like they've been popping up this week pretty well, but MasterCard's at least having a nice day today. But I know that they've been getting kind of beaten down over the past couple of weeks. And I don't know what that's really been, what the reasoning has been for that, for the big pullback here. But either way, they've been recovering up with these banks pretty well. And they have earnings coming up pretty soon. So maybe it'll be a good time to buy the dip on these credit card companies. I know that the banks are doing very well. And if the banks can kind of continue up, hopefully the credit card companies can maybe follow them. But, I've really been eyeing up like BLNK and Plug over the past couple of days. And it's just, unfortunately, they just had that really bad move down yesterday. But I'm glad to see Blink kind of recovering back up today, Mike. And it looks like they might be coming up to retest maybe that $30 resistance. I'd love to see that. And if we can finally get a breakout above 30, hopefully that's all that Blink needs to maybe finally go on that next uptrend, because it seems like they've been consolidating for a long time. And hopefully we can just get some more green momentum in. Like I said earlier in the week, the momentum was definitely there. But as we saw yesterday, there was a big slowdown and the market just kind of pulled back, or at least the bigger growth stocks did. So hopefully we can get these type of hype stocks kind of back up there and we can get that momentum back into these. But one other one that I've really been eyeing up a lot is ABBV, Mike. And I feel like that with the way they just reported, or they just paid out their dividend, and with the way they're starting to move back up, I feel like this could honestly be a pretty good dip buy. And it's really hard to say with the way they dipped on the daily chart, but definitely keep it on the radar. They've had a couple green days come back in, and they do have earnings coming up around the end of this month, but they just reported those dividends. So maybe they'll get a nice pop back up off of that.
What do you think about Ford? I know this is kind of off topic, but what do you think about Ford? Like, I know their stock has been doing like pretty well over like the past couple of years or so, and I think that they're innovating and like adapting pretty well, like with all these EVs.
Yeah, I do too. I've seen a lot of stuff about the electric Mustang, the electric F-150 Lightning, and it sounds pretty good. And that they've been talking a lot about innovating their fleet. Same thing with General Motors, and they both have been kind of moving up in synchrony with each other. I'm sure General Motors is going to be having a nice day today as well, and it's not as nice as Ford's, but they're definitely having a nice green day. So I like both stocks, and I feel like that they're both definitely pretty good options right now. I'm not saying that Ford's going to be the best to buy shares of right now for the long term, but I think it could be a decent play for a swing for to the upside, maybe like with some options or maybe for like some leaps right now. But they are getting close to this 1645 resistance. But I will say Ford has just been slowly staircasing back to the upside, and I would not be surprised to see like a nice maybe it'll take a good earnings report or something, but I would not be surprised to see a nice break of that high and maybe to have another runner here pretty soon. And guys, if we look at the max weekly chart on Ford, they are recovering up pretty well, but keep in mind they're still pretty far off of their highs. Like in we could say back in like 2010, 2011, they had this high of around 19 to, you could say, like 18 to $19, and we're honestly pretty far away from that right now. So if we retested that high, that would be awesome. But honestly, like Ford has a long way to go to get back to these levels of 2000, and hopefully this innovation really helps them. And I don't know, Mike, I feel like it's a pretty good stock for the longer term, and maybe it'll be good to maybe, half your position, maybe get half of Ford, half of General Motors, but I think it's honestly a good play.
Alrighty, so good stuff there. We have Iranical saying Bitcoin passed 60K. So yeah, I saw that Bitcoin was exploding up, which is awesome to see. Mara and Riot are popping. The Bitcoin futures are doing great. So yeah, it's awesome to see. I know a lot of people have been waiting for this, I guess you could say, this news headline for a while.
Yeah, they have, and it's awesome to see with Bitcoin, and lots of people have been waiting, like you said, and hopefully it keeps going up because Bitcoin's getting close to some of these resistance levels, and we've had some pretty explosive movement lately, so hopefully the momentum can kind of keep up, because if not, we might see a pretty hefty pullback. But I hope that the breakout keeps happening, and hopefully Mara comes up and retests $50 sometime soon. But it's just the Bitcoin market's really hard right now, and it's just such a difficult market to trade. And I really hope it goes up in the short term, though. And I know Mara and Riot have been awesome stocks lately, but I will say just be a little careful with them. That looks like they are getting a little bit overbought.
All right, so Tom, do you have any last minute stocks, options, or anything you are watching for today?
Yeah, I'm still keeping an eye on FSLY, Mike. I know we talked about this a little while earlier, but look at this. They actually broke $45 a couple minutes ago, and they're getting a pretty nice pop back up. So definitely keep your eye on Fastly. I know the big money's been getting in a lot lately too. And it seems like a pretty good setup here. It's been running up quite a bit. NIO is definitely on my radar as well. I think this is even in a great spot for a long-term buy. Definitely down here around that. Anything to me under $40 with NIO is just buying opportunities. So right now, I think getting shares or just grabbing leaps will be great for NIO. So I'm really eyeing them up too. I think they could have a pretty nice move over the next couple of weeks as well. But I'll say I'm definitely eyeing up Fastly and NIO. They're having pretty good days, and I'd really like to see a nice turnaround with these stocks. They've been getting beaten down, and hopefully we can get some nice recoveries.
There we go. So thank you guys so much for watching today's stream. We are seeing a lot of movement across the board. Again, thank you guys so much for watching. We hope you have an amazing rest of your trading day and a great weekend.